All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks and Game Time. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth to break down day 13 of Patriots training camp, and we'll probably get into a little preview of tomorrow's joint practice with the Philadelphia Eagles as well, because today's session was a little bit on the lighter side, right? The pads were off.
Yeah.
It was 90 minutes, which was the shortest practice in almost 2 weeks, it felt like. The refs were still out there. We had some, competitive 7-on-7s and 11-on-11 periods, but ideally it was kind of a lower intensity. Again, they were in shells. They were in full pads yesterday, so kind of a step back here before the big joint practice takes over tomorrow. But we can start with some quarterback talk, as we usually tend to do here. It was another day kind of dominated by Jacoby Brissett and Drake May and the whole snap breakdown. We saw a little bit more Joe Milton and then no Bailey Zappi. Thought it was a good day for Drake May. Pretty accurate with the football, good decisions, couple really impressive throws in 7-on-7s, and then kind of more of the same from Jacoby. Had some early accuracy issues, kind of settled down at the end. Really nice touchdown to kind of end his day to Jalen Reagor, but no surprise, those two still leading the way, tons of reps, and then again Milton third and none for Bailey Zappi today. But the quarterback room, what did you kind of see out there in today's practice?
Yeah, I thought this was one of Drake May's better days of practice. He was throwing the ball with conviction. I think the biggest thing to me was the anticipation. And he threw back-to-back touchdowns, one to Javon Baker and then another one to Jaheim Bell, where the separation was created by the receiver breaking the route essentially as the ball got there, and Drake May throwing it before the guy got out of his break. Those were both in the red zone, kind of back of the end zone, in cut sort of routes. And I think that's good. Like, that shows building chemistry and understanding the playbook of all that. Now, look, that he had his best day on a non-padded practice, one of the lightest practices we've seen all camp. I'm sure some people will point to that, and it's a fair point. I would say you got to start somewhere, and hopefully today showed that he is feeling more comfortable. And if he can continue this into joint practices and into the game, boom, we're off and rolling. If he takes a step back tomorrow, then today has a lot less weight to it, but we'll give credit where credit's due. I thought he was good today. I thought today was one of his better days.
Yeah, those two passes in 7-on-7s were just awesome. Like anticipatory, as you mentioned, with darts too. Like the one to Baker, he had Schooler and Marcellus Dial closing in, and it was just a bullet right in there. And he's been, credit where credit's due. This whole camp, he's been really good in the red area, like the low red zone, which, we've said it a lot. That's where things get tight down there, and it can be difficult for quarterbacks, especially a rookie quarterback. But he's been pretty accurate in there. He ended his day too with kind of another one of those, rollouts. So it was designed rollout, kind of a legal pick play, and Jalen Polk got open again in the low red zone there. So he's been really good in the red zone there, kind of this whole summer, which is a promising sign and an encouraging sign. But the pads will be back on tomorrow, and he'll get to face another defense, and it's a pretty good defense in Philadelphia, right? They have a good pass rush. He can't get touched, obviously, but he could kind of feel that pressure. They have a good secondary. What do you want to see from Drake May? I'd assume we're going to see a lot of him and Jacoby Brissett. They'll probably still keep leading the way here, but what do you want to see from Drake May tomorrow in this joint practice?
Just more what we saw today. I want to see him elevate the talent around him. And again, he's still not with the ones, but if he's a good quarterback, he can make it look like he's with the ones. And we even saw Mac Jones do that at times his summer, his rookie summer. So that's not me saying that Drake May is going to be worse than Mac Jones, because Mac Jones didn't do it consistently, but there were flashes of that. And you saw like a flash of it today from Drake May. But again, joint practice versus non-padded practice are two very different things. So let's see him throw it that same anticipation, see him throw it that same pocket poise, but do it in a setting, like you said, that's a lot more competitive.
Yep.
But if he has the same, if he looks the same, he could have the same practice tomorrow that he had today, and it's 100 times more exciting. Yeah, just 100%. given the setting in which he does it.
Yep. And I hope we get to see him push the ball a little bit more downfield, because that's something else we've talked about. It really seems like they're making him play. They obviously, the offensive coaches want him to play in structure, right? Hit his first, second, third read. in a practice setting. And it seems like at times the defense, they're rotating out of certain looks to say like, okay, you got to play underneath. Like, we're not going to let you push the ball downfield. So hopefully, another defense. And, Bill Belichick was on the Pat McAfee show and said one of the advantages of these joint practices is you can run your real defense, right? Like, you can spin coverages in the back end, you can dial up different pressure looks up front. So hopefully he gets some chances because he wants to. You see him like he wants to throw it downfield, and then he realizes like not the smart play. So hopefully we get some opportunities for him.
Well, we even saw like Joe Milton today, and he only had, I think, 6 reps in team, but he had a couple where I think, because he hasn't aired it out either, I think he just got fed up because he sent a couple deep balls today that weren't really, I don't want to say they weren't really to anybody, but like neither one was a high percentage throw. Neither one you would call a good read, but it almost kind of felt like, all right, enough of this. I'm throwing it deep kind of thing. He gave Jaquay Jackson a chance. It was like a true 50-50 ball against, I think it was Azizi Hearn, right? And Hearn made the play to break it up. But like, it felt like there's an element from Joe Milton today where it was, all right, I'm enough with the checkdowns. I'm throwing it deep. Whereas Drake is still taking a profit, trying to take what the defense gives him, throwing it underneath, because that's how they're forcing him to play right now.
Yep. And then same question, Jacoby. What do you want to see from him tomorrow with that top offense?
Yeah, so this to me is a bigger test because Jacoby Brissett has been, I've been very vocal about this, the biggest surprise in camp for me. Not that I thought he sucked, but he's really been like a plus. He's been, I would call him a plus player through camp. Now that's against his own team. What can you do against not just another team, but a good team in the Eagles? Because we saw him struggle a little bit against Carolina. I thought there was some good, some bad. I thought he navigated the pocket well against Carolina, but when it was time to throw the ball, he sprayed it. So again, Jacoby's been good all summer, but I am still kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop and they just play another team and it all falls apart. I'm not saying he has to carve up the Eagles entirely, but I want to see him continue to look like I want to see him essentially go punch for punch with Jalen Hurts. And that's not to say I think he's as good as Jalen Hurts or needs to be as good as Jalen Hurts, but I think in this practice setting, he should be where there's a lot of other things thrown in there, right? I want to see him go just about throw for throw with Jalen Hurts. That to me would justify the level he's played to so far. Not justify, but based on how he's performed this summer up to this point, I don't think that's an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with Jacoby, he's reading out things well, and you'd expect that, right? He has experience in this offense. He looks comfortable in the offense, but then, he can spray at times, which you saw in the preseason opener, like the high miss to Mitchell Wilcox, kind of underthrows Tyquan Thornton deep there. So, but that might just be kind of who he is as a player, because that's been pretty consistent throughout the summer. But if he can kind of keep up with Hurts there, that would be a good kind of test line there to see if see how Jacoby looks. But last thing on the quarterbacks, are we going to get a Mac Jones New York Giants practice out of Drake May? Or are we going to walk away from tomorrow, if you had to guess, and really maybe start to have a different look at this quarterback room with, if Drake May goes out there and, carves up Philly, like, for anyone who doesn't remember, Mac had a joint practice against the Giants where he was dominant, and it was in the middle of the whole Cam Newton COVID thing. So that thing was already going downhill, and Mac just kind of, he really took over that QB1 job in that practice. So do you think we might see something like that out of Drake May if you had to make a prediction here?
I mean, could he have a really good practice? Yes, it's possible. And it may even help him just getting a different look, because we've talked about this. The Patriots are forcing him to play a certain way. The Eagles are just going to play their defense. Coaches script practice a little bit, but I don't think Gerard Mayo is going to go to Nick Sirianni and basically say, this is what we want your defense to run.
Yeah.
That being said, is it the practice where he takes over the starting job? No. Mac had been a little bit more convincing to that point at the Giants practice than May had been. He had one really good preseason game, which
Cam and Jacoby were
right. And that's the other thing. Cam Newton was not nearly where Jacoby Brissett is right now. So I don't know that we walk away from that practice and say, wow, Drake May's now the starter, but there are definitely, if the Eagles play him differently, it could be freeing for him, and it could allow him to do some stuff he hasn't been able to do to this point in camp. But I don't think we walk away from tomorrow saying Drake Maye's the week 1 start. Not so much because of what could happen tomorrow, but because of everything that happened before tomorrow.
Yep. Agree with you there. So,
and this too, Max Giants practice was before week 3. So still later on in the process.
Definitely.
So it was a little more definitive.
Good point there. But, that's the quarterback room. Again, kind of a quieter day today, so not too much to take away, but setting up for a really big day tomorrow, probably the biggest day for both of those guys this summer so far. So that'll be exciting to watch them work. But before we get to the rest of the offense, let's take a very quick break and we'll hear from our friends over at Game Time. I got to talk to you guys about Game Time, which is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, and it makes getting tickets faster and easier because prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying all your MLB tickets. They have flash deals to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event, and zone deals to save if you're looking to sit in a specific section. It is baseball season, and the Red Sox are hot, and while they're going on the road for the next week, they'll be back in Fenway against the Yankees, where you can see All-Star Game MVP Jarren Duran as the Red Sox continue to make their playoff push. And if you're in the Boston area, if you're around Fenway, Cask and Flagon, Bleacher Bar, getting a bite to eat, getting a drink, Game Time has last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off on buying last-minute tickets for sports. So make sure you check the Game Time app right before first pitch to make sure you're not missing any last-minute deals. And you can even get your comedy, theater, or concert tickets on Game Time as well. So take the guesswork out of buying all your MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, rest of the offense beyond the quarterbacks, there weren't any pads today, so not much to take away in the trenches, up front. But, Chris kind of brought it up in the comments here. Tomorrow is going to be a really big test for this offensive line. Like the Eagles, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter up front. They have Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff they signed, the old Jets pass rusher off the edge. So
they have Hassan Reddick, though.
Not Hassan Reddick. The Jets might not have Hassan Reddick either. So,
real quick on Hassan Reddick. Sorry, before we continue. This is why I don't mind, to an extent, the Patriots backing out on Brandon Ayuk. Because I think when people say they were removing themselves from it, it basically meant they wouldn't make the trade without a contract. And I'm okay with that because I think they would be in the same situation. I think they would have ended up in the same situation the Jets are right now. And for what they were, look, the Jets gave up a third. Still a bit more than I want to give up for a player that's never going to play on the off chance you sign him. For what they were going to give up for Ayuk, it wouldn't have been worth it. If they ended up in this situation with Brandon Ayuk, it would have been a disaster. So
very bad.
Just seeing that today, like because I would say that and so that's not happening. If you trade for him, of course he's signing a contract. Not always. So I just that made me think of that real quick. Sorry, real quick.
No, that's relevant. AFC East. Patriots have their own pass rusher who might get traded. That's basically a team trading for Matthew Judon and saying like, okay, now you're going to play on your $6.5 million. Well,
contract. That's the other thing. I got this question today. Should the Patriots try to trade for Hassan Reddick? One, the Jets are going to give you a premium division tax on that.
Yeah, that's
probably not worth paying. Two, pay your own pass rusher before you go and get another one. And then old Judon for Reddick. I don't think the Jets would do that. I might if you're willing to give Hassan Reddick a contract. But at that point, just give Matthew Judon the 1 year and go pay a primetime pass rusher next year. So
yeah. And Reddick's 29.
Yeah, he's not exactly young.
He'll be 30 in September. So like he's not like if you were getting a 25-year-old or something for Judon,
right,
like that might make more sense. But yeah, he's going to be 30 soon. So that would be kind of a weird move.
So I'm out on Hassan Reddick to the Patriots at that point. Just pay Judon.
Yeah. So we'll get to Judon in a little bit too, because there's a little bit of news on him today. But Patriots O-line, real good test for the Eagles tomorrow. We're still seeing Vidarian Lowe at left, Chuks Okorafor at right. The interior three has been solid, set, sturdy. City So, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu. Are you holding on your butts tomorrow when the Eagles come to town with this offensive line?
How can you not? And again, I've talked about this a lot. Gerard Mayo set that date for when they want to solidify their week 1 offensive line is after the second preseason game. So here we go. They need to prove this group of 5 and the tackles in particular, because I think the middle's more or less set. The tackles need to prove that they can protect the quarterback, that you can put them out there week 1 and you're going to have to worry about it, but not worry about it to a problematic extent. The reason I say I think the middle is pretty much set is I do wonder if they don't like it if Mike Onwenu goes back out to tackle. Like, those 3 guys will all be in the lineup. But yeah, it could get ugly tomorrow. It could. I'm not ruling that out.
I'd have to look. Bryce Huff, did he go up against Vidarian Lowe at times last year? I'm sure, right? In those Jets Patriots matchups. But
yeah, I'd have to go back and look through it. Well, didn't Vidarian Lowe start week 1 last year for the Patriots? Did he start week 1 last year?
Yeah,
then he would have faced the Eagles.
It was him and Calvin Anderson, wasn't it?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Let's see. I had Bryce Huff up here. Regular season. You can't see who he was against on PFF, but he had 3 pressures in the third game, and then he had 7 pressures in the week 18 game. Bryce Huff.
Okay.
So, and I think wasn't Lowe back in the lineup on that game too?
That sounds right.
18 game. Hold on, let me pull this up. Because I think he was doing better at left tackle, Vidarian Lowe, and then the week 18 game kind of fell apart for him. And if Bryce Huff had 7 pressures, okay, so the week you can't see the breakdowns again, but week 3 against the Jets, Vidarian Lowe was at right tackle and gave up 8 pressures, and then week 18 against the Jets, he was at left tackle and gave up 2 sacks and a total of 7 pressures. So
not great.
Not great there. He did not play against the Eagles week 1, but looks like Bryce Huff may have gave him the work, especially in that week 18 game. So good test for Vidarian Lowe there. But yeah, that deadline we're right there, right? Like you'd assume. I don't know if this is a disaster tomorrow. Would they change things up? They have a walkthrough Wednesday and then the preseason game Thursday. Like, do you really think they would change things up before that preseason game, which is their deadline then again?
So I don't think they would change it up from Tuesday to Thursday. I think it's
we come out on Saturday,
right? When you get back, look at the film. Like the way I kind of read him saying that is Thursday is whatever they're going with after Thursday is the group. So if they keep the group together, they keep the group together. If Thursday dissuades them, they're not going to try a bunch of different groups after Thursday. They're going to say, all right, it's Lowe out, Anderson in, or it's Mike Onwenu out to right tackle, Chooks over to left, Layden Robinson in, or Michael Jordan in. And then that's the group they're going to start getting ready for week 1, because after tomorrow, game on Thursday, the practice is closed to the fans. Then they have another week, which is probably like 3, maybe 4 practices. And then the practice is closed to the media outside of stretching. So this is when you go from the general preparation to nuts and bolts, installing the ins and outs of the playbook, not just the general scheme. You're going to start doing some week 1 stuff, some scout team stuff, game plan, things like that. So you can't be, and as I say this, like, this is why I think Gerard Mayo said second preseason game. It's not a tryout period. It's a preparation period. So the tryout period ends tomorrow. So you're not going to be running with a bunch of different offensive lines during that time. You shouldn't be. So maybe they change it after Thursday, but then I think that's the group.
Yep. Hopefully it just looks great and then they can keep the group, but we'll see. I don't know about there, but big week for Caden Wallace, I would say as well. If they need to make a change, you again would like the rookie to maybe take one of those spots up front. He was with that second unit again today. He was repping on the right side, and Calvin Anderson was on the left side. So they're still flip flopping those 2 guys on the second unit around a lot. Was there anything you would like to see from Wallace specifically, or even that second unit, guys like Layden Robinson or even Calvin Anderson in that swing tackle conversation against the Eagles tomorrow?
I'm just curious if they continue to rotate them or if it's one guy between Wallace and Anderson, if it's one guy at left, one guy at right, because that tells us how they view those backup tackle spots.
Yep.
And obviously, just for them to be solid, but I don't know if there's anything super specific. As for the guards, Nick Leverett's going to be the backup guard, and Layden Robinson's probably going to make the team just because of where he was drafted. So I don't know if they keep another guard too, with Leverett sort of also the backup center, and that would come down to Antonio Mafi and Michael Jordan. But I just maybe one of them to step up, but I'm not entirely sure there's another spot to be won there.
Spot. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, interior, Mike Onwenu against Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, like that's best on best. That'll just be fun to watch, and good test for City So, and even David Andrews, Nick Leverett on that backup. Leverett's on the backup unit, City So on the top unit. Those will be fun trench battles to kind of watch against those big two defensive tackles. So, good test for the offensive line. Again, they weren't in pads today, so not much to take away, but the real test coming tomorrow for that unit. So, receivers, Pop Douglas just continues to be almost unguardable out there. If you come back to today's practice, 5 catches in team drills, led the whole team. He 7 catches yesterday, led the whole team, 5 today. So he looks awesome out there. It'll be fun to watch him against this Eagles secondary. And then the other thing was Jalen Polk, kind of been quiet lately, but comes out today, catches a late touchdown from Drake May, had the early maybe play of the day on a kind of a back shoulder slot fade connection with Joe Milton. He went up and over Isaiah Bolden for that catch. So good kind of bounce back for Polk, and Pop Douglas still looks unguardable at times. So those guys I thought were kind of the best 2 receivers on the field today for the Pats.
Yeah, I mean, Pop Douglas has been their best receiver, and I don't think it's been
since
necessarily close. Yeah, since last year, right?
September or August of last year. Yeah.
Well, except for when he was benched for a month, but
yeah,
he continues to look good. I thought that catch from Polk was notable because that's not what he's been for most of camp. He's kind of been that just steady Eddie, get open at the sticks, catch the ball in space to receiver, not a go up and get it guy. That's Javon Baker. So flexing a little something else in his bag, I thought was interesting. But yeah, again, I know Matt Dolph wrote, I'm going to butcher it, but in so many words today, in his takeaways, something along the lines of like, Pop Douglas is no longer in a red non-contact jersey, but it doesn't matter. Whatever jersey he's wearing, nobody's close enough to contact him anyway. And that's been the story of Pop Douglas's camp.
Yep. So he's been awesome. But yeah, those 2 guys, again, not many like passes today in total, like only 90-minute session, 4 competitive team drills. So those 2 guys stood out in the receiver room. But again, looking ahead to tomorrow, Darius Slay, Keely Ringo, first-round pick, Quinion Mitchell. I think Cooper DeJean's on PUP, right? Or he's hurt. I don't think he's practicing, so we won't see Cooper DeJean, but even, Avonte Maddox, some good safeties. Eagles secondary has some good players back there. So what is there any maybe one specific receiver you're watching to see how he works, or just any big thing in that room as a whole that you wanted to keep an eye on against this Eagles group?
I mean, I think the rookies just, I know that's a pretty basic answer, but let's see the rookies against professional coverage and how they separate, how they are physically, things like that. Big day for the rookies.
Yep. They'll be fun to watch. Kind of been quieter for Javon Baker lately. So maybe he comes out, gets the popcorn ready against another opponent. That would be 2 encouraging things if those rookies look good tomorrow. But another pass catcher who wasn't out there today, Hunter Henry, he got hurt yesterday, kind of limped off in the 7-on-7 period, wasn't out there today. Big loss. We talked about it yesterday. Big loss in the passing attack. He's been probably their most consistent pass catcher throughout the summer. He had a really good week last week, down the field in the red area, big part of the AVP offense. So hopefully it's nothing serious and he can come back out at some point, doesn't miss too much time, but he was out today. Did you see anything in the tight end room that caught your eye as they kind of tried to replace him on the field today?
Excuse me. Yeah. So Mitchell Wilcox has been the 3rd tight end for most of the summer. behind Henry and Austin Hooper, but I thought they mixed in LaMichael Petway and Jaheim Bell a good amount. And that tells me that third tight end job maybe now up for grabs is Mitchell Wilcox. I mean, they gave him every chance to win that job, and he just literally and figuratively dropped the ball. So that's going to be one of my things to watch for going into Tuesday and into the game is, can Wilcox bounce back, or just Petway, Bell? Jacob Warren didn't get a ton more reps, but we'll include him in here because prototype-wise, if they want the blocking tight end, he's the best fit. Do one of those guys maybe emerge as the answer? I still think they're going to end up like they did last year with Pharaoh Brown, going out and getting another tight end, but like externally at roster cuts. But yeah, it seems like that door is now open, and if Hunter Henry's out, and they know who Hunter Henry is, no need to have him practice tomorrow. No need to really play him for the rest of the preseason. The opportunities are going to be there for those guys to win a job.
Yep. Speaking of Pharaoh Brown, did you see him bury a guy in that first preseason game the other night?
I didn't, but I believe it.
Yeah, they should have just re-signed Pharaoh Brown, but he was blocking on the edge and just buried a defensive end in the run game. So, but yeah, watching those guys, block too. Hopefully, you assume it's going to be pretty physical in the run game. Seeing how they hold up there, that'll be a big part of that tight end 3 battle. And I'm ready to see a little bit more Jaheim Bell. Right, like seemed like a little bit more active. He missed a lot of time. He's kind of seems caught up now. He caught the touchdown from Drake in 7-on-7s today. So I'm hoping we get a little bit more of him in the pass game, especially with Drake May. If we want to get a little bit more aggressive going downfield, he could be an intriguing guy to watch. And then Petway too, another guy who can. He had a touchdown yesterday. He can get kind of physical in the run game too. So yeah, maybe more of a battle for that third tight end spot. Especially with Hunter Henry out, and then Hooper's just going to lead the way with Henry out. So that's tight end room. Anything just quickly running backs? We can't mention they re-signed Deshaun Fenwick this morning, who was a UDFA. They released him kind of at the start of camp, so he's back in the equation now. But anything in that room that you want to see in that joint practice tomorrow?
I mean, Gibson as a route runner has been fun to watch. I feel pretty solid in what that room is, but I think we'll have some fun watching Antonio Gibson run routes against some of the Eagles' more athletic linebackers.
Yep. They have, Nakobe Dean. They have Devin White now too, don't they? I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be fun watching those guys against their linebackers. But that's the offense. Anything we miss from either today that you wanted to bring up, or just any other things that you're looking forward to for tomorrow that we didn't get to?
Hopefully more kicks. Like that thing's neck and neck. And talking to Joey Sly today, I think he's got a great attitude. You were in there for most of that. We talked a lot of golf with him.
Long time.
Yeah, he went on, but talking about, there's only 32 jobs for kickers, and, doesn't look at it personally with Chad Ryland. He's just trying to be as good as he can. And, so him and Chad are both really good. The things will play out the way they should play out. But, I don't know. I need my kicker fix. After yesterday, it was so epic, and then no kicks today. I want to get back to it because I still believe it's neck and neck. Like, I don't think they know yet. And
Brainer kind of said that this morning. We talked to him too.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's pretty close. And he brought up like it's a day by day thing where one guy could have a good day and then, it rotates like that. So yeah, that does seem really tight. And hopefully you get some good pressure kind of, built in game situations tomorrow in this joint practice. So hopefully we get some good field goal action.
Well, I want to get to it too. Sorry to cut you off. The other thing Springer said, I don't know if you want to get to it here or we can do it later.
You want to just do it now while we're talking special teams?
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
So a couple of weeks ago, Gerard Mayo, somebody asked him about the kickoff, and he basically said, the league's still ironing it out. We're still hearing rule changes or rules getting clarified from the league as we go. And this was at the start of camp. So I asked Jeremy Springer today if that was still going on. And he said, not only is it still going on, but they're going to be tweaking the rules through week 4 of the regular season.
That's crazy.
That's wild. And that to me is basically to make sure if there's a loophole, they close it. To which I would say, if you're a team with a loophole and you break it out in week 5, which is, that's what Bill Belichick would do. But that could also be, teams are kicking too many touchbacks. And I've talked about this. All right. Touchbacks no longer at the 30. It's now at the 40. right? Something like that. So it's going to, nobody really, it's just more to the point, and I've said this, nobody really knows how this thing's going to go, exactly how this thing's going to work. I'm sure teams have their ideas of what they want to do and not do, but nobody really knows how this thing's going to work. And it's going to be a fascinating story throughout the season.
Yeah. Week 4 is crazy. Like that they can just change the
Week
rules.
4 is crazy. I understand they've done this with new rules before where they'll experiment in the preseason and set it before week 1. I think they did that with the longer extra points back in the day. They said we're going to
technically, but and didn't they technically do that last year with the fair catch? They're like, we're going to trial it. We're trialing it in the preseason. Okay, and now we're installing it for the regular season or something.
And then nobody ever did it in either. But so that's not uncommon. Week 4 is wild. Like I even asked him, I was like, week 4, the regular season. Like,
are you sure? Week 4?
Like, did he forget that there's no longer 4 preseason games? Like, but that's what he said, and that's wild to me.
Yeah, and didn't he say like there's like special team like league wide meetings where the coaches are recommending stuff kind of too? Like they're all sitting down and kind of hashing this stuff out together. It seems like so. And we've already seen it in the spring. Remember, they were laying the football down flat on the tee, and they were experimenting with that kickoff. And then we came back, after like the 6-week break for training camp, and they're like, "Yeah, the NFL called us and told us you have to put the ball in the tee. That you can't do that. You have to stand it upright." Which seemed like they were also getting a lesson. There was a time today where it was like the 2 kickers and Sprainer off to the side with one of the refs, and they were experimenting with the tee. So who knows? This is going to get. It's kind of just chaotic right now. No one knows what's going on, and it seems like it's going to take us into a month into the regular season. So,
literally,
will be interesting to watch how it develops. And Sprainer also made it sounds like we're going to get some return action tomorrow in the joint practice, so that'll be fun to watch. See if they tweak anything now that they saw it live in the Thursday preseason game. See if they make any noticeable changes in that. But some fun special team stuff there. But before we wrap up with the defense, I want to tell you guys very quickly about Prize Picks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers as you pick just more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. The summer games are over, so the baseball season is coming down the stretch, and women's basketball is back in action, where stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are back on the court and looking to make names for themselves alongside the greats like Breanna Stewart and Asia Wilson. And you could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. Speaking of Caitlin Clark, I'm taking her for more than 3.5 3-pointers made and Breanna Stewart for more than 23 points. And if you're looking for promotions on those, Prize Picks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Friday. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy over on Prize Picks. Defense. Anything today? One big thing today, penalties. Lots of penalties.
Yes.
The refs were back out there. We had 2 team-wide defensive laps for substitution, pre-snap errors. Looked like one, they only had 10 players on the field, so Gerard Mayo sent him on a snap. We also could have mentioned 2 false starts on the offense. So lots of penalties, couple in the secondary too. I think Alex Austin got called for a pass interference. So this was something we saw a lot in the beginning of practice, or beginning of the summer. Wasn't so much, and now with the refs back out here, it kind of got highlighted. A lot of penalties and some pre-snap stuff to kind of clean up, it seems like.
Yeah, and that stuff's got to get cleaned up because this team doesn't have the margin for error. And on offense too, this is where I worry. The West Coast tree, the Van Pelt, Shanahan, McVay, LaFleur tree, they're bad at this. It's simply put, they're bad at it. They don't line up right. They don't get plays called in quickly. There's been some times here in camp where the play clocks run down to 0 and they've just kind of let it go. They don't have that margin for error that the Niners do or the Packers do or anything like that. And this is one of the things that annoys me about that tree. People know this, that they're just not good in-game coaches. They're great play designers, but they don't it's not all played on a whiteboard. You got to line it up and actually execute it.
Yep.
And, on defense, I think they'll clean it up because it's a veteran group. Like today was an outlier for the defense. It was a bad day, but it was an outlier. Like we haven't seen that a ton. On offense, it's going to be a problem. I will say this, though, for the defense, for the lap they ran, Matthew Judon out in front, sprinting. And for a guy that, we kind of wondering where his buy-in is and all that, usually you're not buying in too much. You don't sprint a lap.
Yeah. Well, it was a non-padded practice, right? So you could buy in today. But
right.
And we also got the report from Jeremy Fowler. We can talk about, speaking of Judon, that some teams inquired about him. Nothing, too big there. It seems like teams were just kind of doing their due diligence, but maybe a market starting to heat up. I don't know. We haven't talked about Judon in a week. Has your opinion kind of changed on what you think the outcome for this is going to be now that you heard some teams have been inquiring and, he's been out there, he's been practicing. So has anything changed on your front from that?
Well, so Mark Daniels literally just tweeted out. Let me find where that went. I can't find it, but basically said that it's just teams doing due diligence. It makes sense to check in. It doesn't make it sound like the Patriots are, aggressively right. The Patriots aren't shopping him here. The reported trade interest on Matthew Judon is teams doing their due diligence on the pass rusher, according to a league source. It makes sense for others to check in with the Patriots to see if they can add Judon, who's unhappy with his contract. Basically, you find out a guy freaked out of practice. You guys holding on to him after that? Like it's worth asking. So I don't think it means that a trade is imminent or anything like that. But it's not surprising. It's not. I was kind of wondering in the days after that happened, like, all right, are we going to hear about teams calling on him? And there it is.
Yep. And DeMarcus Covington said Judon has been, Judon in the locker room. He just had a bad day in front of, all of us that one day where he was, talking to Mayo and Wolf and everyone. So it seems like he's at least good behind the scenes and he has been practicing of late. So we'll keep watching that because something still probably has to happen at some point here, but nothing has. So we'll see what unfolds for Judon. But rest of defense today. Secondary, still no Jonathan Jones, still no Marcus Jones. We're mixing and matching a lot of guys in and out as well. We talked to Mike Pellegrino this morning. He kind of said, those rotations, he likes to give different guys matchups. He likes to really mix those up. So he told us not to read too much into it, but we're going to read too much into it anyway. It's been, Marco Wilson and Alex Austin on the boundary opposite of Christian Gonzalez, and both those guys got some praise from Pellegrino and Covington as well. They specifically, I think one of them even mentioned Marco Wilson's experience, which is something we've brought up, right? Like he's played the second most amount of snaps in that room outside of Jonathan Jones. It's a young room. So those two guys been on the boundary, and then no Sean Wade today, who's been kind of the first guy up in the slot without Marcus Jones. So those snaps went to Isaiah Bolden, and then even Azizi Hearn mixed in there, who also drew a lot of praise from Mike Pellegrino, saying he was one of the most. He kept saying he was really proud of him, the progress he's made. Yeah. So I don't know, just anything in that cornerback room, that those rotations stand out to you. And now they'll be going against even Christian Gonzalez, watching him go against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith tomorrow, right? Like we said, he's a gamer. This is kind of like a game. It would be nice to see a big performance out of Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, Gonzalez is definitely a player I'm watching, especially against a couple of really good receivers in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. In the cornerback room, I've talked about this a lot. Sean Wade, to me, is on the roster because he gives them depth in the slot that they don't have elsewhere. But if Isaiah Bolden can give them quality slot reps, that changes things because he's younger and has more upside than Sean Wade, which is kind of what matters for that spot. So Isaiah Bolden, especially Sean Wade's going to be out, like not even practicing. Isaiah Bolden here with a really good chance to play his way onto the roster with a good performance tomorrow, Thursday, and moving forward.
Yep. So we'll watch them. Johnny Wilson too was on the Eagles. That'll be fun just to watch.
That's right.
Johnny Wilson.
So is Will Greer.
Yeah, I know. Mike was all happy that Will Greer is coming back to town. So
also, John Ross.
Oh yeah,
I think John Ross and Tyquan Thornton should race.
That would be fun. Having them two go at it. Saquon too, new Eagle. So
That's right.
There'll be some fun guys. We'll get to see Kenny Pickett spin it. If we want to watch Kenny Pickett spin it, probably not. But I wish we were getting the Devontae Parker revenge training camp, but he
That's
retired,
true.
so
Yeah.
he's no longer on the Eagles. But yeah, it'll be a good test for that Patriots secondary as a whole there. But front seven, like anything more tomorrow, not much today. Although I'll give Joe Giles Harris credit because he keeps kind of finding his way around the football. He had another pass breakup. I think he had 2 in the preseason game, and then he had another one today that resulted in an interception for Del Pettis, who's been another guy who's a safety UDFA who's been flying around. We've talked about him a good amount. So I'll give Joe Giles Harris some credit in that front seven. But tomorrow, anyone or today, if anyone else caught your eye that you're kind of keeping a lookout in that front seven.
Again, like just Keon White taking that next step. Good reps for him. No, I mean, that group's been pretty consistent. Jeremiah Farms picking up where he left off. We're seeing him against not the Patriots offensive line, which obviously things are going to be a little tougher for them. Just 2 guys keep it up. I don't think there's any one guy that I'm like super excited to see or anything.
Yep. Those guys still like on the interior. Like if Farms can keep building, right? Like you need some of those guys to step up without Barmore, so those would be good. And I know Jason Kelsey no longer on the Eagles, but they still have quite the offensive line. Malata, Lane Johnson, their tackles, Landon Dickinson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, the interior. So good test for that pass rush and those interior guys up front on the Patriots defensive line. So anything else defensively? Any other things from today or players you're watching specifically tomorrow?
I mean, Del Pettis had a pick. He was off a deflection, but Del Pettis had a pick, and Brian Belichick was very complimentary of him before practice. He got asked about him like 4 times because people were like in and out of the scrum, but see if he can keep it going.
Yep. The only other defensive note I'll say, and it's not really about today or tomorrow, but we talk about the one-on-ones a lot, and it was just interesting talking to Mike Pellegrino today. He says he hates the one-on-ones. He doesn't put much stock as on the defensive side because he plays it like they have a post safety, and that's why some of those those deep crossers, like it's impossible for the corners and safety. So we see those clips. It's exciting for the receivers, but just some added context I thought was interesting from Mike Pellegrino there on those one-on-ones. And he says we're just looking for good technique. It doesn't matter if you're getting beat 20 yards across while the quarterback has 20 seconds to throw the ball. So thought that was just interesting hearing from him because we do talk about those one-on-ones a good amount, and our buddy Amit loves posting the clips of cornerbacks getting burned on Twitter or whatever. So some good context from Pellegrino there. But think that's it. Anything else? Any last thoughts about today, tomorrow?
If you notice I'm a little distracted, the Patriots worked a couple players out. I've been trying to figure this out. Xavier White, who was had a good start at Texas Tech, and then just had a good career at Texas Tech, was like a good complimentary receiver. I'm a little surprised he's unsigned. I'm not saying he's the be all end all answer, but I thought he was a guy that was like borderline rosterable, definitely a step above guys. No offense, like Jaquay Jackson and Kwan Baker. So
Jaquay Jackson's been running some smooth routes out there.
Jaquay Jackson has been running some good routes, but Xavier White, an interesting name. And then I can't figure out this other guy because Aaron Wilson initially reported it. Kenny Lewis.
Oh, I saw a guy there with a Bowling Green jacket on today, so that must have been why.
Okay, so Mike Reese said, but here's what I can't figure out: there is no Kenny Lewis from Bowling Green unless we're going back to like 2008.
Huh. What did Aaron Wilson say? Did he say Kenny Lewis?
Aaron Wilson just said Kenny Lewis Bowling. Aaron Wilson said Kenny Lewis. That's all he said. Didn't give a position or a school. Mike Reese said defensive back Kenny Lewis Bowling Green, and then I saw Taylor retweeted an account that said Morehead State wide receiver Kenny Lewis, which there was a Kenny Lewis at Morehead State, but he was a corner, I think, if I just saw this correct. No, he's wide receiver, but still. So I have no idea who the hell they just worked out. But Xavier White's a guy I thought maybe is a UDFA in the draft. I was more interested in that name.
There's a
If
Kenny
anybody
Lewis.
knows who the other one is.
Yeah, this Kenny Lewis at Bowling Green played in 2008. So
he's
I don't
a running back, right?
No, this one was a corner.
Okay.
But he played in 2008. So I don't think.
Right. So he's got to be like in his 40s. No, 30s. I don't know. Don't make me do math.
Yeah, this is same thing, 2008. Okay, so there's just I don't know. There's some Kenny Lewis on the Patriots.
They're going to sign this guy, and he's going to be like a legend. Watch.
It's going to be like the next Malcolm Butler or something.
Yeah.
This Kenny Lewis was a freshman in 2012 at, where is this? Cal University of Pennsylvania. I don't know. So they worked out two guys today. But
I mean, the guy from Morehead State was there last year. Like, he's the right age where this makes sense.
So maybe we just have Reese has the wrong school potentially.
Yeah, but Reese is never wrong. Like,
that's also true. Like,
I always,
and there was a guy there. I saw a Bowling Green jacket today, and I'm like, why is there a Bowling Green jacket?
Well, that could be anything. People love Bowling Green.
That's fair. So who knows? Maybe we'll get some. Maybe we'll get some clarification on that. But let's wrap it up. What's our? We're gonna do a crossover. Back with Tayler and Mike, because the block of practices are over.
Yeah,
we might not be able to do it live at Gillette tomorrow because we have our media game, so we're going to be busy tearing up the field.
Of course.
Sounds like there's going to be some videos out as well of that, so that'll be fun. So we might not be able to go live for the crossover at Gillette. I think we're going to try to come back.
I think we said Wednesday morning at 9.
Wednesday morning. My days are all messed up. When they do the off day Saturday, practice Sunday, it screws my whole week up. So Tuesday joint practice, Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock, maybe we'll be back live for the crossover show to break down the entire joint practice, little preview of Thursday's preseason game probably as well. So just subscribe to Patriots Press Pass, turn on your notifications so you'll get notified when we are exactly going live. We'll also try to give you a heads up on Patriots CLNS on Twitter, but it sounds like Wednesday, 9 o'clock a.m. is the plan for now. But in the meantime, you can also follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth, 985thesportshub.com for his written Patriots training camp coverage. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines. And head over to patspulpit.com for our written work over there as well. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in with us tonight. And we will see you again probably on Wednesday to break down the joint practice.